Right, and that we are feeling out of control because our body is taking over our thoughts, and that's why we feel as if we haven't got the control. But actually we have got the control, because when you think about the word control, it means have authority over. It means to have command. And so it's about finding the right way for you to get that control back, so that you can think clearly, you can feel what you want to be feeling, instead of the anguish and the frustration, the frightening feelings that we feel that we're never going to get through, that we're going to come out through the other side. Okay, so this is going back to really start with stop, which I talked about at the very start of these Let's Talk live Facebook groups. And and you popped up now, I saw you earlier. And it's about trying to stop yourself, all right, before you slip even further down the change curve. Because if you don't stop yourself, then you're going to get further and further down. So instead of feeling anxious, you will then begin to feel stress, okay? And then if you go even further, you will go down into depression, because you haven't found the right way to start reverting the change curve and coming up the other side, so that you can start taking action and then begin to level out so that you've got your normal again. Okay, so it's going back to starting with stop. And starting with stop was basically try and stop where you are at this precise moment with your feelings. Okay, so that's S. T is for take a break. Okay, take time to have a little think about it. Hi Devendra, I hope I've said that correctly. Nice to see you here. O is for observe those thoughts and those feelings and your behaviours. And then P is about pacing yourself so that you can start taking action. All right, because like I said, if you've got the control back, you can start putting yourself in the right state so that you can start thinking what you want to be thinking, which will lead on to feeling what you want to be feeling, which will then lead on to behaving how you want to behave. And that'll mean then that you can start taking positive action to really revert that change curve and come out the other side. Okay, and the problem is that a lot of people feel that they haven't got the control, and so keep on allowing themselves to think and feel and behave the automatic reaction to everything. But in fact, you know, we've got a lot more control than we think we have, but it's about using all your resources, using the skills that you've got, and this isn't in a malicious way, using the support networks that you've got to help you find your control. All right, because if you go to the right people, they will help you to work out those feelings and those thoughts that you're not happy with, that you're not liking. Unfortunately, they might say things that you don't like, all right, but it's just them helping you to find the right way for you, all right. And it's about being open to suggestions as well, and because when we're in that state of lack of control, so thank you, Anne. Yeah, so it's like your best friends. Go to your best friends, go to your manager or a work colleague at work if there's a problem at work. Go to your relatives, go and spend some quiet time, perhaps talking to the dog or the goldfish, or perhaps, if you want to, download a lot of stuff that's going on in your head and in your heart if you are worried about the response you might get from a human being like your best friend. Because, it's about the downloading that is really going to start helping you move forwards. Because if you keep blocking stuff up inside of you, all right, it's going to go round and round inside your head. It's going to get you really, really frustrated, and the emotions and the negative thoughts are going to escalate and escalate and escalate until you are so out of control you don't know which way to turn. All right, so it's about downloading them so that you can start to think clearly. And people do this in different ways. I've talked so far about talking to someone about it. It could be that you find it easier to write things down, or use perhaps things like exercise to help you release that energy in a different way. Some people exercise. A lot of people run when they're very anxious, or go and pump weights at the gym. But it could be about being creative in the kitchen, doing a lot of cooking. I know one lady, and she'd always bring cakes into work, and the one day I said to her, do you bake because you're anxious? And she says yes, it really, really helps her do it. So it could be that way, or it could be music, it could be dancing. There's lots and lots of different ways that you can download and use some of that frustration in a positive way, in a creative way that is going to be really, really beneficial to you. Okay, so once you've started to get that control back, it's then about how you manage that new control. And this goes back to clarity, which we were talking about last week. Clarity and communication. All right, so it's going back to listening to what's going on in your head, listening to what's going on in your heart, so that you can try and put the two together. And I know I keep banging on about this nearly every time I do these Let's Talks, but it is about using the information that you're thinking and you're feeling so that you can work out what it is that you really, really want. And then planning how you're going to get there. But if you don't communicate with yourself correctly, how are you going to communicate to other people correctly as well, so that they can so that you can behave in the way that you want to behave to progress in whatever the situation is. Okay, so yes, control. Even though we feel we don't have it, we do actually have it, and we have a lot more of it than you think you have. It's about noticing it. It's about understanding it. It's about being true to yourself, and it's about being authentic. All right. Yes, it's important to be able to express the feelings in a safe way, and to have that bit of time where you need to give yourself that release. All right. But where it becomes unhelpful is if you allow it to continue and to continue on. So another thing that I find really, really helpful is to give yourself a time limit. All right. So yes, give yourself a time limit to wallow in self-pity, to have your anger time, but then to have a cut-off time as well, and stick to that cut-off time. And in fact, this technique of having cut-off time is really useful in all sorts of different in all sorts of different ways. So if it's about you're trying to get perhaps a project written, or you've got a deadline for an assignment, then if you're struggling to get the motivation and you're procrastinating, then allow yourself a little bit of time to get to procrastinate. All right, but then say, okay, I'm going to procrastinate for this amount of time, but at 9 o'clock, that's it. I'm going to put that procrastination to bed, and then I'm going to carry on. All right, and that is one example of how you can get control. All right, give yourself the time, give yourself the space to think, feel, do whatever it is that you need to do in a safe way, and then move on. But the time frame is really, really good to be able to do that, using time in a slightly different way than perhaps you've used it before.